Game Week 1 has just passed in the Premier League, and here's a recap of the scores. We'll be doing this in reverse order. Spurs, unfortunately for me, were held to a 1-1 draw at the King Power Stadium, and maybe they were actually lucky to get away with a draw. The title contenders in Manchester City, Arsenal and potentially Liverpool all went to comfortable, quote unquote, 2-0 wins. The relegation contenders, that being Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton, having just come up, all were, as mentioned, either beaten, unlucky to go 1-0 down to a 10-man Newcastle, or, as mentioned, were beaten 2-0 by Liverpool. Manchester United managed to keep a 1-0 win over Fulham at home, and the result of the week was probably the 3-0 drubbing that Everton got from Brighton, putting them, I would say, squarely in the relegation battle. We'll start by discussing the match of the week, which is a new section I'm making on this show. The match of the week will be a match every single week where I feel like that match has had the most impact. This could be because of drama, could be because of narratives or effects going forward in the title or relegation battle. It could be a tight fought win, a tight fought loss, a draw with high scores, or just the tension and drama it built up. It could even be because of VAR. What it is this week is Chelsea carrying on their chaotic preseason with a chaotic first match and the narratives coming forwards from it. I would say Chelsea has taken over as the banter club in the Premier League. This was a title held for a long time by Arsenal, with their constant crying about not winning any trophies, lack of progression, and players coming there to essentially go out to pasture. This is now seemingly Chelsea's role, although they've done it in a new way of signing 35 players somehow over a summer transfer window and playing almost none of them. I'm going to show you a graphic right now. Take a look at this team and what do you notice about it? What's a common thing about it? No, you're wrong. This is a full team of 11 that have some form of drama around the Chelsea squad and didn't feature at all in their 2-0 loss to City. It's surprising, isn't it? You'd have thought that with squad depth being such an important thing, you wouldn't want a full team of 11 of potentially first team players and players who have been champions or have been first team players for Chelsea. To make a full team of that is quite impressive, would you not say? In this squad, you've got players such as Sterling or Mudryk, their wingers, who are off form and have had statements had to be put out saying that they're focusing on their path going forwards and seemingly either going to be a black hole of wages, not playing, such as Sterling on £350,000 a week and off form apparently, or Mykhailo Mudryk, who can't string 2 passes to save his life. You also have on this list players who are shunned and clearly Clearlake wants to sell for a profit, such as Petrovic, who had actually a reasonable season last season, and Chalobah, who's an academy graduate and under Pochettino led them to an unbeaten run towards the end of the season, cementing them a 6th place finish. These two are being ousted and weren't taken on a preseason tour for some reason, despite being the best defender and arguably the best keeper they've got. You've got players who have or are being sold, such as Broja, who was loaned out to Fulham and seems to be being sold or peddled to whoever will take him, and Gallagher, who's finally completed his move to Atletico Madrid. The way he was treated is actually quite despicable. Gallagher was made to fly back and forth between Madrid and England and stay in various hotels waiting for the outcome of this contract battle. It seems like Chelsea isn't taking care of one of their homeboys. I would say that's pretty despicable as a club. You have players who can't remain uninjured for their life, who would be surprised that Reece James is once again injured and will be missing for a significant portion of the season again. I'm unsure why Chilwell didn't play a part, but I would suspect that he's probably not up to speed and his form has been waning ever since he's picked up a couple of injuries. You've got Lukaku, who's the perennial contract chaser and is basically going around all the Serie A clubs apparently, who are still somehow being paid for by Chelsea. Even on their bench, you can see that they've got Badiashile and Kepa, who is doing a Lukaku and essentially costing Chelsea money whilst not actually playing for them. If you do a search of Chelsea Football Club 2-3 years ago, you would be looking at title battles, winning the Champions League, and what they'll be doing in the season coming. Sterling was part of that process. He was one of the initial signings that indicated change at Chelsea, and that they weren't happy with not winning any silverware and they were going to try to change their squad. Hiring Pochettino, although difficult for me to watch as a Spurs fan, was also a positive sign. A coach who was well known to bring up young talent, and despite having some difficulty and some loyalty issues, and I'm looking at you, Rory Jennings, who was shouting for Pochettino's head all of last season and somehow is now decrying his departure. Somehow, towards the end of the season, Pochettino managed to get Chelsea into 6th, above Manchester United and Newcastle, despite all his troubles. And yet, strangely, over the summer, he mutually parted with Chelsea Football Club, and I think we can see why. Everything that Rory Jennings has mentioned in his videos that Clearlake and Bowley want to do seems to be happening, doesn't it? Very much so. Your academy graduates are all being sold. We're talking about Mason Mount to Manchester United, Chalobah, who seemingly is being ousted, Petrovic, and Conor Gallagher, who's just been sold to Atletico. This is a list of players that represent the heart and soul of Chelsea. Players who would die for the badge, but clearly the badge will not die for them. In fact, the badge will kick you out and make you stay in a hotel waiting for whatever contract negotiations need to. It's not surprising that players are finding it difficult to find form. Chelsea have also had 6 managers over the past 2 years. That's basically a new manager every 4 months. Do you think that there was any chance of any stability happening at Chelsea? You've got Enzo Maresca, who, despite Gary Neville's podcast saying that he's representing a new change and the ownership has clearly hired him because of his style, and, well, what happened? Because in pre-season he was very much all guns blazing, I'm going to stick to my style. And yet against Manchester City, all of that seemed to go away. What's happened, Enzo? It seems like Enzo Maresca is going to perhaps get a win here and there just by quality of squad and reputation of Chelsea, but genuinely against actual high-level players and high-level clubs, I think Chelsea are going to falter, and Maresca is going to find out very soon that he's not the manager you think he is. I mean, the whole league has gotten used to playing against Pep Guardiola full fat. I think they're going to manage Pep Guardiola light in Enzo Maresca fairly easily. And it's not just players off the pitch that were made memeable. I put out a short recently of Cucurella, who, having, congratulations to him, won the Euros, decided that he was going to banter Haaland and say Haaland will tremble. And in fact what happens is Haaland steamrolled past Cucurella and pushed him to the ground while scoring a goal to open up his account for this season. I think this is very much a Vardyism of chat shit, get banged. Speaking of Manchester City, although it very much seems like business as usual winning comfortably 2-0 against Chelsea away, I would suggest that there were some weaknesses and potential gaps were there to be an injury, let's say to Rodri, for example, and they are reinforcing quite vigorously. It seems like Gundogan's about to come back through the door, and Barcelona's financial troubles, which is a whole video in and of itself, seems to be catching up with them, and they're going to let Gundogan go back on a free to Manchester City. Gundogan, I think, will have a solid presence in Manchester City's system. He's played under Pep for a long time. He's won under Pep. He knows what Pep wants. He can play everywhere. He's a senior presence, and I think the rest of the Premier League needs to be scared if this transfer is completed. Let me know what you guys think will happen this weekend. What do you think of my analysis? And what do you think of Chelsea as a club this season? Are they the new Banter FC? Comment down below, and peace.